I quit my 9 to 5.
I've been doing things that they told me I should never do. I've been doing things that they told me I could never do now. Never do, I could never do. I've been looking back and I'm the only one who ever knew. My dreams began to turn out.
Man, I have been looking forward to making this video for years, and now that the time is here, I feel a little lost for words. I wasn't going to actually follow through and make this video just because, you know, there is a very popular trend right now with people quitting their 9 to 5s, pursuing entrepreneurship, which I'm fully supportive of. I just feel like it's been overdone, and I didn't want it to seem like I was just kind of falling into the trend of doing it. But the reason I decided to still make this video was because my situation is a little bit different, and I think that, you know, if certain people are in my situation and what I've been through for the last, 7 years, more than that, you know, it can be helpful for some other people. The reason I wanted to share this was because I don't have the typical story of getting a 9 to 5 and quitting to pursue my entrepreneurship endeavors in 6 months. It took me way fucking longer than 6 months. And, you know, it's just a constant thing that I am continuously having to go through, where nothing comes easy to me. Ever since I was in high school, I had to work my ass off for my grades. I had to work my ass off to be a starter on the basketball team. Nothing ever just came easy to me. But something I've really discovered over the last decade or so, and this sounds so cliche, but it's true, if you fucking put your mind to something, you can make it happen. And I've always been that type of person where if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, regardless of how long it takes. So a lot of people, if they have, you know, dreams and wishes of being an entrepreneur and they don't get there within 6 months, you know, a lot of people quit. And I don't know, I think the overall message of what I'm about to share with you guys, you know, can kind of contradict that that's something that you should do. If you don't get there within 6 months, you know, if it's important to you and if it's something that you want to pursue for the rest of your life, regardless if you get there in 6 months or 6 years, it shouldn't stop you. And it took me, okay, let's just retrospectively look at things. I was never going to go to university, and I had no ideas of what I wanted to do. When I was getting ready to graduate high school, I always wanted to be a musician. I always had the dream of running away to New York and just becoming a musician and, you know, starting my life over there. But, you know, when you're young and, you know, you're surrounded by a family and friends and your grandparents and everybody telling you that that is not a viable future and the likelihood of you making it as a musician is going to be impossible, and you were basically, it was still my decision, but you were basically just encouraged to go to school, and that was the only path to success. You know, when you're young and you don't have people like Gary Vee and all the people that a lot of younger people at my age have now to kind of encourage you to chase those dreams, you do it, you're told. You do what, you know, you think society is expected of you. And some people are gifted enough to have a mindset of their own when they're 17 years old. I definitely wasn't. I definitely was the type of person, okay, well, if they say I can't do it, I have no one else telling me I can do it, so I might as well just do what they tell me to do. So I dropped those dreams, basically stopped playing music, and went to school. The problem was, when I went to school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And naturally, what's the one thing that is your deciding factor when you're going to school and you have no fucking idea what you want to do with your life? You figure out what is the highest paying job and what you need to do in order to succeed in that area. So that's where I landed on accounting. I knew that it was a safe job. There was always going to be a need for accountants. Maybe it would allow me the luxury of traveling one day with my job, but I knew that there was always going to be a high level of earning potential if I decided to hone in on accounting. So that's what I did. I went to school, I became an accountant, it took 4 years to get my degree. And then I went to public practice, and it's very similar. If you guys don't know how it works, it's very similar to how law students are treated, where you have to article at a firm and go to school at the same time. You have to earn a certain amount of hours, and you're still expected to work a shit ton of overtime. So it was another 3 years of schooling, and I was miserable. Once I was done my degree, I went into a firm, and I remember everything that I was learning in the firm was nothing that I learned in university. I had accountants talking to me like it was a second language. I had no idea what they were talking about because it was stuff I didn't really learn in university. So I was very frustrated with the fact that, I just spent all this money going to school, spent all this time learning these things, and none of it was really seeming applicable to the real life situation. So that made the work environment very frustrating and very overwhelming. And there's not a lot of sympathy in that area because so many people kind of make the same decision that I make where, accounting is safe. So there's a lot of people going through the program. So if you can't hack it in the public practice world, somebody else will. So there's not a lot of sympathy for your frustrations, overwhelm, and stress that you're going through. So you're kind of forced to just suck it up. So the entire time when I was going through the articling program and I was, going to get my chartered accountant designation, I always said to myself, throughout those 3 grueling years that, it'll get better once I get my designation, because at that point I'm not going to be paid like a peasant anymore. I'm going to make a lot of money and it's going to be worth it. And I'll come back to this as to where, the transition came into personal training, but once I got my designation, once everything went through, once I got the big raise, I noticed within a week, not even a full week, that I was even more unhappy. It was the weirdest thing, and I've heard so many people say this before, oh, money's not going to bring you happiness, and I always thought that was going to be different for me, and I know it was only a week, and maybe I had to give it more time, but I was less happy than where I was making way less money, but I was also doing less work. Once I got my designation, I got the big raise, more responsibility came with that. And because of that, I really wasn't enjoying the work that I was doing already. I thought it would get better. And ultimately for me, it got worse and I hated what I was doing. And I remember within the week, it was within that week that I got my designation, Kyle and I were at the gym, walking on the treadmill, doing our 5-minute warm-up. And I looked at him and I was like, I think I want to do personal training. And he just looked at me. He's like, do it. He knew I wasn't happy. He knew that everything that I was working towards was making me miserable. I was becoming more and more away from the person that I always wanted to be when I was younger. And I was very thankful that I had Kyle, who was very supportive of me. And the reason why I honed in on personal training, it wasn't just a random decision, was while I was going through the program, I really struggled to, still incorporate my fitness routine and my nutrition, but I started to get better at balancing all these insane hours of work with my fitness routine. I became more selfish with, my health and my fitness, because it definitely took a little bit of a plunge in my university days, like it does for most people, but when I was coming close to the end of the program, I was studying with a bunch of girls and I was always training all the time, and they asked me, hey, can we come to the gym with you? We're really afraid of the gym. I don't really like how my body looks because I haven't been taking care of it as well while I've been in school. I'm like, yeah, sure, come to the gym with me. I'll show you some stuff. And I felt so fulfilled when I was helping them get comfortable in the gym. They were getting comfortable with certain movements, and I started to help them with their nutrition and everything, and I found it really rewarding and really fulfilling. And at that time, I actually hired my first coach when I was just finishing up the program, and I was like, I didn't really realize that this online coaching thing was a viable business. So that's where it all kind of came into play, where as soon as I got my accounting designation, within that week of feeling even more unhappy, I was like, hey, I think I'm going to do personal training on the side. Kyle said yes, he said do it, full encouragement, full support from him, and I went and registered for just my basic certified personal training certification, and took that, and within, I think, maybe 3 weeks or so, passed that, and I started taking on clients. So this was in 2015 when all of this started, where I started the transition into, wanting to become a online coach. I always knew at that point that I would not be an accountant forever. I just spent the last 7 years getting my designation only to turn around and realize that, this wasn't something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I spent a lot of time actually, trying to get to know a bunch of different accountants in the industry. And, I always saw a common trend, especially with a lot of the accountants who were parents. And that's the fact that, they didn't have a lot of time. They were so stressed out all the time. They always looked a lot older than what they really were. And this isn't for everyone. This is just what I noticed. I'm not trying to put down accounting, and I will come to a full positive as to why I don't regret this a little bit later on. But I just knew that the lives that I was seeing in the industry was not a life that I wanted to live. And that was my main motivator for building up the Natty Hour to what it is today. That's what really kept me motivated, to the point where, if it didn't work out in 6 months, I wasn't just going to quit. I would do whatever it took in order to get to the point where, this was going to be my full-time gig one day. And I actually almost got there within 2 years of starting up my business. Kyle and I were still in Prince George. Kyle was still kind of struggling with what he was wanting to do with his life. So we always had dreams of leaving, but we wanted to wait for him to figure out what he wanted to do with his life before we uprooted everything while he was still figuring things out. So I was focusing on me, on my end, and getting, my business up and running as fast as I could, to the point where I could quit. And I actually reached that point at the end of our last year in Prince George. I was ready to quit accounting and do the coaching thing full time. But it was at that point that Kyle finally figured out what he wanted to do, and that was real estate. He was also helping me with the Natty Hour as well. But once he figured out where he wanted to go with his career path, it was at that point where we're like, okay, we're ready to move to Kelowna. And that was always our dream, to come here to Kelowna. But like I said, we're just waiting for Kyle to figure out what he wanted to do. So once we figured that out, I was a little bit naive to how hard it would be financially moving to a new city. It was a lot cheaper to live there, so I could live off a lot less money doing coaching full time. Once everything kind of settled into Kelowna, I realized, like, oh shit, okay, like, things are different here. The sunshine tax that people talk about, it's a real thing. And Kyle was just getting started into real estate, and for those who don't know, that's a very challenging industry in itself, especially when you're just first getting started. So I had to actually suck it up and go back to doing accounting full time in Kelowna, and man, was that one of the most challenging things ever, because right before we left Prince George, when I was transitioning to doing coaching full time, I was only working a couple days a week at the firm that I was at. So it was like that for maybe about 6 or 8 months or so, where I was just doing accounting part-time, and basically most of my time was invested into the Natty Hour. So I got really comfortable with that schedule. So having to go back to working full-time in an industry that I fucking hated was pretty challenging. It was very difficult, especially moving to a new city where Kyle and I didn't know anybody. It was just me and him. That first year of living here was one of the hardest years of my adult life. It was really challenging, lonely. We didn't have new friends. We started making friends, because if any of those who know Kyle, he's very chatty Cathy, and he can make friends pretty easily, but not really any deep-rooted friends like what we have now. And I was in probably a really bad place. I was pretty depressed. Kyle was going through his own challenges, trying to break into a very competitive industry in a very competitive city. So he was going through his own shit, and it was brutal. And what, do I want to talk about that? And close to the end of the year, when Kyle and I first moved here, I actually lost my job. And it was probably the most scariest thing ever, because I thought that we were going to have to move back to Prince George. It was right before Christmas that this happened, and it was without going into too much detail and going off too much on a tangent, it was just very challenging and one of the most difficult times ever. Ended up getting a new job and everything worked out, and it's been 2 years later now. Still going through the same things that I always went through as an accountant. You know, I got used to going back to work full time, but like I said, it was a struggle. But after I lost my job and I had that fear that we were going to go back to Prince George, it was at that moment, like, I'm glad it happened, because it was at that moment where I thought that I was giving everything that I got into the Natty Hour, but there was so much more that I could give, and it really just lit a fucking fire under my ass. And this whole last year, 2018 and 2019, after it, because it happened in 2017, I lost my job, thought we were going to move back to Prince George. We had $400 in our bank account and a mortgage, and we have animals, and Kyle has expensive real estate fees, and I'm like, holy fuck, we failed. We're going to have to go back. That situation right there, like I said, it lit a fucking fire under my ass, and all of 2018 and all of 2019 were invested so much more into the Natty Hour than I've ever invested back when I lived in Prince George. And now, because of it, I am able to officially walk away from being an accountant and finally do the Natty Hour full time. Oh, fuck, man. And finally being able to get to this point has been one of the most rewarding things that I have ever accomplished. And I wanted to share this with you guys because you can relate this to if you're trying to become an entrepreneur, even if you're just trying to, better your health and your fitness. Maybe you're at a really dark place with your fitness goals right now and you're just not seeing the progress that you are wanting to see. When you hit bottom, like I did at the end of 2017, you have two choices. You can pack shit up and go home and quit, or you can just let it fucking fire you up to the point where, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter the amount of time, work, effort, hours that it's going to take for you to put into it. One day, you will get to the goals that you are trying to get to. And when that one day comes, holy fuck, is it worth it? It is so fucking worth it, my friends. No matter what you are trying to accomplish, no matter what you are trying to achieve right now, you have the ability to get there. And if you just keep fucking fighting, no matter what you are going through, I promise you, the bigger the struggle you are going through right now, the better the results are gonna be. I am so fucking glad, and this is no disrespect to anyone who has gotten out of their 9-to-5 in 6 months. Congratulations. I wish I did it that quick, but at the same time, I'm glad I didn't. The last 7 years of me trying to get out of a job that I hated have been the most rewarding things that I've ever accomplished, and it's been so fucking worth it. The struggle, everything that I'm looking back on right now, and that's why I'm like getting emotional talking to you guys. I fucking did it, and I can't tell you how amazing of a feeling that is. Or we just don't celebrate our wins often enough, and I just really think that the bigger the struggle, don't go chasing the struggle, but the bigger the struggle you go through, the better the reward is at the end of that fucking tunnel. And I don't know, I've never been, like, it's only been a couple of days, but this is something I've been dreaming of for the last 7 years, and it is even better than what I've ever envisioned over the last 7 years getting to this point. I promise you, keep fucking fighting because it is so worth it. And then having said that, because a lot of people are asking me, they're like, oh, well, that sucks that you spent all that time getting a designation that you don't like. And, realizing that, you're meant to do something else. And I disagree. And this was really hard for me to realize, so thank you, Kyle, for helping me realize this. But for those who have been through the accounting program, you guys know the insane amount of expectations that come with it from your partners, from your managers, from the schooling system, from everything. You are required to work your fucking ass off, and it really built an insane amount of thick skin that I didn't have. I was always a very sensitive kid. I'm still pretty sensitive now, but the amount of fucking mental toughness that this program has taught me is, the reason why I've been so successful. It built an insane amount of time management skills, hustle, drive, and you know what? It's taught me how to run a business. I feel fully comfortable with everything that is involved in the business side of things versus just the personal training side of things. I have best of both worlds. So no, it wasn't a waste. None of it was. I don't regret a goddamn thing, because if I knew that I was going to be a personal trainer right out of high school, I might have not been as successful. I might have quit if I didn't become successful in those first 6 months. And I might not be where I am today. And I'm just so grateful for that. So no, I don't regret it. But I don't know, just to wrap this up, thank you guys for listening to me ramble about this, but I hope that it's helpful for some of you. And I just wanted to quickly thank everybody at the Natty Hour, all my current, past, and future clients. It's because of you guys that I'm able to do what I love. It's because of you guys that I am able to actually help women repair their relationship with food, repair their fear of entering the weight room, and just making them feel empowered and strong in their own skin. It's something that I am so blessed to do now full time. I'm forever grateful. So thank you everyone at the Natty Hour team. And then lastly, thank you, Kyle. I wouldn't have been here if I didn't have his support and his encouragement of, helping me through those dark days, those challenging days where, I did want to quit. Not every day was perfect. I had my tough moments where I'm like, fuck man, I'm never going to get there. I'm human too. But having that support system and having somebody, tell you that, you're better than this, you're stronger than this, just keep fighting, you will get there. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, my friend. I love you, Kyle Jansen. All right, I'm done rambling. I think that's all I have to share with you guys. So yeah, I quit my 9 to 5. Fuck, does it feel good?
I've been doing things that they told me I should never do. I've been doing things that they told me I could never do. Now, never do, I could never do. I've been looking back and I'm the only one who ever knew. My dreams began to turn out. I told them it's my turnout.
We are calling it quits to vlogmas today.
Want it all, gotta get it all, never gonna burn out. I've been busy working, you busy flirting, guess you get what you deserve now. Whoa.
Basically, I had something happen in my life that was completely unexpected. And I'm gonna ask that you just kind of respect my privacy with that right now. It's a story worth telling, but it is currently unwritten. So I will tell you guys eventually kind of what is going on and the real reason why I decided to quit vlogmas. Having said that, because of all of the free amount of time that I have now, I'm so blessed. I'm so thankful. No, if anybody's asking, I am not doing any tax returns. I did over 800 last year. I will not be doing a goddamn thing during March, during April. April is Kyle's birthday month, and in 2020, it's gonna be the first year that I don't hate the month of April. I'm forever thankful. So because of that, stay tuned, you guys. Way more content coming at you, way more help in regards to fitness and health and nutrition, YouTube, podcast, blog. So make sure you follow me on YouTube. My podcast is More Than a Physique Podcast. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, and make sure you follow THENATTYHOUR.com. I will be putting out weekly blogs for you guys. I love you all so much. Thanks so much for listening.
Like a new man when you broke it off, and now you want me back, but the hope is gone. This rap shit is all I ever focused on. Swear that I'ma make it and it won't be long. Like